In this video, we'll learn how to use the Layers panel in Photoshop. Layers are one of the most useful features of the program, and learning how to manage them is key to almost every workflow, from making compositions, to adjusting colors, to adding effects, and to simply staying organized. I've got Photoshop open here, and we're going to take a look at one of the demo files for this week that has some layers in it. I've already got my Layers panel open, but if you need to, you can access yours by clicking Window, Layers from the menu bar. And this shows us all the layers of the current file. Every pixel image has at least one layer. The reason we'd want multiple layers is to help increase design flexibility and editing speed. Layers help us keep different parts of our image separate from one another, making editing and layout changes much smoother. You could think of each layer as having its own pixel grid, where some of those pixels might be transparent and others might be opaque. The layers stack on top of each other, and transparent upper layers show what's below them. Some possible things we could do here in the Layers panel include selecting layers, naming, renaming, duplicating, deleting, or making new layers, changing which parts of our image are in the foreground versus the background, temporarily hiding a layer, locking or unlocking a layer, or adjusting graphical properties of a layer. Selecting layers is one way to tell Photoshop which parts of our image we'd like to edit. To select a layer, simply click on it. Selected layers are highlighted in a light gray color. We could select multiple layers simultaneously, either by holding down Shift while clicking, or by Control clicking in Windows or Command clicking on Mac. To deselect layers, Control click in Windows or Command click in Mac on a layer you'd like to deselect. Or just click in an empty space in the Layers panel to deselect everything. We can name a layer by double-clicking on its default name to edit it. Once you set a name, just hit Return or Enter on the keyboard to commit. It's a good idea to use descriptive names in your layers. It's very easy to build a file that has many layers. In fact, the maximum number of layers is only limited by your computer's memory. So making sure to set meaningful layer names can really make editing a lot easier. Working with layers makes duplicating parts of your image very easy. To duplicate a layer, just click and drag and drop it onto the New Layer button at the bottom of the Layers panel. That's the one that looks like a square with a plus sign inside it. The duplicate layer will be right in the same place as the original, so you'll need to move one or the other layers to see both. You can easily move the selected layer with the Move tool, just like this. To make a new layer, we can click the New Layer icon at the bottom of the panel. This gives us a blank layer, and that's a good step for working with tools that create new pixels, such as the brush tools for digital painting. If we'd like to delete a layer, just select one or more, and click the Delete icon at the bottom of the Layers panel. It looks like a little trash can. Or click Layer, Delete Layer from the menu bar. The vertical order of layers in the Layers panel is what determines which parts of our image are in the foreground and which parts are in the background. Layers at the top of the Layers panel are closest to the foreground, and layers on the bottom are in the background. We can reorder layers simply by clicking and dragging them. Sometimes we'll want to temporarily disable a layer, and we can do that by toggling its visibility with the icon just to the left of each layer that looks like a little eyeball. We can just click to turn visibility on or off. We could also hold down Alt or Option while clicking to hide all other layers and just show that layer. Or if we'd like to toggle visibility on lots of layers, we can just click and drag up or down that column. A lot of times in Photoshop, we'll have something in a layer that we don't actually want to edit. And that's where locking comes in really handy. Lock controls help us prevent some or all properties of a layer from being edited. We could lock just the transparent pixels, just the colored pixels, just the position, just nesting, or all of those properties with these lock toggles. All we do to change a layer's lock settings is select it, then click to toggle the locks that we'd like to enable or disable. Layers that have lock properties will display a lock icon to the right of their names. we can use the Layers panel to adjust the opacity of a layer, or multiple layers. Opacity is measured in percentage, with 0% being fully transparent and 100% being opaque. To change opacity, we just select the layer or layers we're interested in editing. Then click the drop-down next to opacity for a slider, where we can click and drag the triangle to set a value, or simply by typing a number into that percentage box and hitting enter. We can also add blend modes to layers, which control how the tone or color of a layer interacts with layers beneath it. To change the blend mode, simply select a layer and click the drop-down that's labeled normal by default. And here you can see we get lots of different options for that blending mode and what some of those settings might look like. Okay, that's an overview of how to use the Layers panel in Photoshop.